In my veggie garden, I let plants self-seed, which means I often have parsley coming up in the pathways, rocket spread over the whole garden, and enough lettuce to supply the whole suburb. I don't remove any of these self-seeded plants unless they're really in the wrong position.
But what I do try to do is remove all the weeds. Now, the technical term for a weed is a plant out of place. There's not much help when you've got weeds coming up over the whole garden. But what if I told you that many of the weeds we have here in WA are in fact edible? Would you look at them more fondly then?
In Australia, we usually refer to this plant as milk thistle because of its white sap. Now, that's not entirely correct. It should be named the sow thistle.
This plant grows incredibly fast and I usually feed it to the chooks, but it's featured in many cultures cooking all around the world. Now, the leaves have a slight bitter taste, so harvest the really young seedlings when they're nice and soft and eat only those with a slightly rounded leaf because they're much tastier.
I've known this weed as deadly nightshade all my life. This name's wrong, as it's certainly not deadly. It's actually the green berries we have to look out for because of the high levels of toxins. So when they're fruiting, only choose the ripe black berries, and that's also why it's called the blackberry nightshade. Now, it's closely related to the tomato, and the soft shoots and leaves are eaten in cultures all around the world. Wild lettuce is prevalent when there's been summer rain, and soft young leaves are much nicer to eat than the mature plant.
Avoid it when it sends up a main flowering stalk like this. When the plant gets to this stage, the leaves are spiny, bitter, and only good for the compost or the chooks.
As soon as it warms up, a carpet of portulacas or purslane can appear within days. What a wonderful resource. You can make dips, use it in stir fries, or add it to frittatas. It's one of nature's superfoods.
It has one of the highest omega-3 levels of leafy greens ever tested, and it was eaten by early Australian explorers to ward off scurvy. Now, I've often thought how much easier gardening would be if the cultivated plants grew as easy as the weeds. But now I know how useful the weeds are, I'm sure there's going to be more in my garden in the future. Now, if you want to know more information, check out this handbook. It's called The Weed Forager's Guide, and it's certainly changed my attitude to weeds.